Hello, and welcome back to a Transformed Life podcast. I am so happy and thrilled that you are here for part 2 in the series we are doing this month of January 2026, all about spanking and what comes up in your body when you hear the word spanking. Are you defensive? Are you curious? Are you angry? Do stories come up if you have experienced hitting, which is what really spanking is? It's violence. When you were a child, really kind of check in with your system and see what is going on. You can pause this podcast and come back in a minute and settle in to part 2 on spanking. Before we go any further, I want to invite you to please leave a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcast if that is where you are listening. And if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Please hit the subscribe button. There's been a lot of views on episode or part 1 of this series, and the subscribers are still really low. So please take care of that. That is a free way to support this show. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. Today, the topic title is this: the brain on spanking, threat wiring, anxiety, and why fear works until it doesn't. By the end of this episode, you will connect the dots between spanking and threat perception, nervous system reactivity, and long-term emotional regulation. And of course, leave with simple parent strategies, parent alignments that you can use in the moment when you feel yourself activated to hit. And hopefully, since you've listened to part 1, and if you haven't, go back and listen to part 1, you have already made a decision that you will not inflict violence or abuse, hitting, called in this really dressed up term, spanking, on your kids. You won't hit your friends. You most certainly should not be hitting your spouse or any other human or animal. And so hitting young children, 10, 11, 12, teenagers is still not acceptable. So if you have not made that commitment, I really invite you to. And what comes up even when I ask that question? What comes up for you when you hear, I'm going to commit to not hit my kids? And really call it for what it is. Don't call it spanking. Call it hitting. Violence, abuse, because that is what it is. I was in a Facebook group this week, and there was actually this discussion, thank you algorithms, on spanking. And this one mother posted that her husband was spanking, I believe, their 12-month-old, maybe it was even 11-month-old. It doesn't matter if they are 11 months or 11 years. Hitting a child is wrong. End of story. It is not biblical. It is not moral. It is abuse and violence, and it's going to stop with every adult taking responsibility for their triggers when children are not behaving to their certain criteria, what they think the child should be doing. And instead of taking the anger out on the child, they need to look within themselves of what comes up when the child is not doing what I have asked them to do. They're throwing, a temper tantrum, which is just another word for their nervous system is really overloaded. And there's this quote by Joe Hudson, The Art of Accomplishment. And he says, I can always tell when I get on an airplane and there is, a child, a baby crying, and I can tell who has not dealt or who has not been expressed as a child, because that crying really activates them. That adult is really triggered by that child crying. And the same thing can go for this topic of spanking. Spanking is a parent's misaligned response to a normal nervous system of a child. And it is never appropriate to hit or inflict violence or to inflict pain on a child for when their nervous system is out of alignment, which is what nervous systems do. Nervous systems are there to protect us. So, diving into this topic, when you use pain to quote unquote teach a child, you are teaching their brain to scan for danger at all times, especially from the people who are supposed to protect them. I want to be really careful how I say this. Parents who spank are not bad parents. They're overwhelmed. They are repeating what they've learned. They're just regurgitating, and that's what my parents did, so I'm going to do the same thing. And they were told it was normal. And unfortunately, that is a lie. Spanking is not normal. Neurologically, that's an interesting word to say. Brain and body, pain as a quote-unquote teaching tool lands as a threat in their nervous system. So how do you want to raise your kids? Do you want to raise your kids so they don't need therapy when they're adults and years of coaching and so many different things to go through their traumatic childhood because you inflicted pain on them and you have really wired their nervous system to either chase love or avoid love or not have boundaries, to be a people pleaser, all of the problems that we see in 2026 when people don't heal, when people have been been raised through the lens of abuse. We are raising our children through the lens of love and boundaries. This doesn't mean, permissive, like the child can just do whatever. It means setting boundaries, guideposts of this is not appropriate, and we are going to move into alignment. I'm not going to hit you just like you can't hit me. We can teach them healthy outlets. And for so many generations, parents didn't have the tools that we have today in our modern society. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The brain on spanking, what threat wiring really means, why fear can look like it's working in the moment, and why the long-term cost is anxiety, reactivity, and children who don't feel safe being honest. And even this, children who don't feel safe being honest today translates into adults who can't be honest. And this even feeds into why we have so much domestic violence from males. Males typically are supposed to be protectors and providers, and they have turned into predators. And part of it is because they've been raised in environments where they were, 4, 6, whatever age it was, and they didn't have healthy parents growing up. And many of these individuals are extremely harmful today. They can't be honest with themselves. They can't be honest with their children. And it all stems from typically, not always, but typically from their childhood. Some, and this is also another caveat, some people can grow up in an abusive situations and they have the capacity to be healed humans. The quote, hurt people is not always true. You can be hurt and you can heal. That is true for myself. I have gone through tremendous hurt in my life, specifically through the father of my child. And I have turned my story, that's why I'm doing this podcast, turning ashes into beauty. And so not every abusive situation does a person come out harming others. Typically, that's how it can manifest, how it can present. And, it's when men are not held accountable for their actions, when they continue to abuse other women, when men encourage other women to continue to perpetrate against the mothers of their children, instead of saying, hey, you need to respect the mother of your children. So today I'm going to give you 3 things. We're going to talk about what the research actually says about spanking and threat response, what threat wiring looks like in real family life, and number 3, why regulation cannot be built through fear. Oh, and there's 4. And 4, exactly what to do instead, especially when you're about to lose it. So the first thing is translating this science into real life. As we mentioned on part 1, Harvard's reporting on spanking in the brain highlights MRI-based findings showing spanked children can have stronger neural responses to perceived threat, even when the threat is something like facial expressions that many people would interpret as non-threatening. So let me translate this for you. The child's brain becomes more sensitive, more on alert, more in that scarcity loss nervous system response, more on alert, like it's constantly asking, am I safe right now? That is not a way for a child to grow up. Furthermore, the researchers described this as a pattern that looks similar to what we see in children exposed to more severe maltreatment. And again, we're talking about the brain's threat response, not a moral judgment about parents. So think about it like this way. If a person loves you, can also hurt you through physical force, disguised as for your own good, their nervous system learns love and danger can arrive wearing the same face. And that is not how we want to raise our children. According to the World Health Organization, they are very clear on this, that corporal punishment triggers harmful psychological and physiological responses. Children feel pain, sadness, fear, anger, shame, and guilt when they feel threatened. And that can activate physiological stress and neural pathways used for dealing with danger. So even if the spanking is light, quote unquote light, the lesson your child's body typically receives is this: the world is not safe when I make mistakes. And this translates into later on relationships, dating, college age, even in adult age of, women specifically, choosing partners from their childhood experiences of abuse is love. And I'm going to pick, subconsciously a partner who is abusive to me. This translates into money, in career. It translates into every facet of the person's life. And rewiring this takes work. Don't you want to set up your children for success? That they don't have to go through this rewiring that could take significant time depending on how they are currently being raised, and if you are not going to realign with what is aligned for raising your children, and giving them an amazing, healthy, firm foundation so that way they seek out healthy partners. They have the resources financially food. They're not in a scarcity mentality. That's what we want to give our kids, right? I know that's what I want to give my son. And I would hope that every parent wants to give that for them. And that's why I'm doing this whole dedicating this whole month of January 2026 to this topic. Because spanking, which is hitting, violence, abuse, is not just happening in, the child's life now. This is going to affect them for the rest of their life. And my vision is to see every person healed on this planet, where we no longer inflict violence and abuse on each other, no matter their age, no matter their gender, and no matter if it's a human or an animal. Abuse stops with you. What does threat wiring look like in real life? So this is kind of like survival strategies. And this is what so many adults with today are rewiring of like, oh, that was the pattern. I was just living in survival mode. So many single moms are in survival mode of just, living year after year of being in survival strategies. And we want to move into abundance. So survival strategies is not bad behavior. Threat wiring doesn't always look like panic. Sometimes it can look like compliance. Sometimes it looks like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like a child you would call easy because they learned to disappear. So if you have multiple children, you will know that every child has a different personality. Some might be more talkative, others might be more quiet. And if they have or if they're being raised with spanking currently or has been in place, because moving forward, remember, we're no longer hitting or inciting violence on our children. If they have been experiencing spanking from you as a parent, they may be quiet or more loud simply as an adaptation versus like their genetic biological makeup. Here's a scenario one. The child lies to avoid punishment. Not because they're bad, because honesty feels unsafe. When the truth has led them to pain, their nervous system learns, hide the truth at all cost. Do not speak the truth because you will be punished for telling the truth. And the line to repeat is this: fear teaches avoidance, not integrity. So, through spanking, you are teaching fear, avoidance, not integrity. Scenario 2, freeze, shut down. This is the child who goes quiet, can't find words, can't make eye contact, looks defiant, and they're actually in a stress response. Their body is choosing play dead, go numb, minimize. If I just shrink more enough, if I become invisible, they won't see me. Scenario 3, more aggression, I'll hit first. A threatened nervous system often goes offense first. If pain is how power works in your household, children will copy that pattern. I'll take control by being bigger, louder, meaner. Scenario 4, perfectionism, people pleasing. This one is sneaky because adults praise it. The child becomes hyper attuned to the parent's mood. They scan faces, they manage emotions, they do their best to prevent the storm. They have to plan, what is the parent doing? Are they going to react to me? Are they going to just hit me across the face right now because I did something? They live in a very activated state, and that is gasoline to a nervous system on fire. It is not healthy. And that's one reason why so many people have weight issues, is because they have been raised in these environments that they have to predict everything because their caregivers, their parents, are not emotionally, psychologically safe. So this is why it's such an important topic. The body chooses survival strategies. That's the very simple black and white of it. And if you're listening thinking, oh, that was me as a child, I want to say you're not broken. Your nervous system was simply adapting to the environment that you were in. And now that you have awareness, you now have agency, you have choice, and you can choose a new way to raise your children in aligned, morally body-honoring ways, as well as examining the patterns and the beliefs that are showing up in your life. Here's the regulation truth. Kids do not learn regulation through fear. They learn it through co-regulation. The WHO's language, World Health Organization, language backs this up very clearly. When children are threatened, it's not just feelings, it's physiological stress activation. That's the opposite of building a calm, flexible nervous system. So when someone says spanking works, what they usually mean, it stops the behavior quickly. And stopping behavior is not the same as teaching skills. It's not the same as co-regulation. Sure, spanking may feel good for the parent because they are so out of regulation themselves. They have no other skills to use in that moment. The child activated them. The child is not at fault. The parent is. The child is activating something in you. And you are taking it out on the child by spanking, by violence, by hitting. And when you come into regulation with yourself, when you connect with yourself, with source, with the soil, in service to others, you won't even need to rely on spanking, hitting, violence. And from, I think the remainder of this podcast, I'm just going to be calling spanking, hitting, violence because that's what it is. That is the truth. There's been a really great PR campaign on spanking, and it's time that PR campaign ends. Spanking is violence. It is hitting. It is inflicting violence on very typically young children, even, preteens. It is a outdated survival system that parents must stop. So yes, fear can produce immediate compliance. That's not what we want. Co-regulation, however, builds capacity, frustration, tolerance, impulse control, honesty, and repair. If you desire a regulated child, you have to model regulation first, especially when they are least regulated. And I was working with a client recently, and their child, was dysregulated, shall we say, doing what a nervous system would do when a child is, under the age of 10, even older than 10. Keeping details vague here for a purpose. And this child had a very common reaction. And I'm so proud of my client because she realized what was happening in the moment. She did not resort to spanking or hitting or violence. And they began a co-regulation protocol. She even called me. I walked her through a few regulation techniques that she could do for herself as well as for her child. So a little shout out, if you would like to work with me, please get in touch because you have support when you are realigning your parenting, your own life, and it's so beneficial to have a guide, a mentor, a coach on your team who is right there in the thick of it with you. So when you model co-regulation instead of hitting, violence, exploding, and it will take a little bit of time for the children to adjust to your realignment because they are used to one thing. And this is why I'm so excited to get these episodes out on spanking, because when we can give our children a firm, healthy foundation of how to handle our emotions, that sets them up for healthy adult relationships, not only, romantic, platonic, business owners, whatever they desire to do in life. It's the best gift you can give them, more than, candy at Easter and Halloween and Christmas and their birthday. The best gift you can give your kids is a healthy, regulated, flexible nervous system. How to handle their emotions when they don't want to do something, when something, when something doesn't go their way. This is you modeling and practicing this right alongside them. And the research, across the research literature, physical punishment is associated with worse child outcomes, higher aggression, mental health risk, and it's not showing benefits that make it worth the cost in so many different ways. All right, let's get the really let's become really painfully real here. You're human. You will be triggered. You are running on fumes, or you might be running on fumes. You might have been running a scarcity script 4 decades, 3 decades. Even generations before you, you're still carrying those patterns into your present day life. Your child is melting down, throwing a temper tantrum, maybe in public, maybe in front of your parents, and maybe you are feeling shame from them that you are doing something different than how they raised you. And you can feel your body about to do the thing you committed to not do. So I want to give you this 4-step parent rescue. Please save this. Listen to this podcast, share it with a friend. Oh yeah, and don't forget to give this podcast a 5-star review or subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much. Practice this when you're calm so you can access it when you're not, or when your child is having a moment, you are able to tap into those reserves that you are building. Step 1, pause. Physically interrupt the moment. If you are feeling really activated and you want to hit the child, if it's, small child, it could maybe be an infant. People hit babies all the time. I see it on Facebook post. It is happening. So put the child down if you're holding them. Step back and put your hands on your body. You can give yourself a butterfly hug. You can put your hands on your legs, on your knees, but keep your hands to yourself. That's what we tell children. Keep your hands to yourself, like if they are in a group setting and maybe they're hitting someone else. Same thing for adults. Put your hands on yourself. If your hands are about to hit your child or another human, hands to yourself. If they're safe, turn your body sideways and break eye contact for 2 seconds. Close your eyes, come into your body, breathe into your belly. Take 2 deep breaths. And what you're going to say to the child is, I'm taking a second. I need a second. I need a moment. You're safe. I'm here. I'm regulating. That lets the child know, oh, they're not going to hit me. Second step is breathe. It could be 5 seconds. It could be 4. It might be 30. It might be a minute. Put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and breathe into your hands, belly first. You're not attempting to go into a Zen moment. The goal is really to come back online within yourself, because you are also out of regulation and you need to be in regulation so you can appropriately and aligned help your child. And this is what you're going to say. I'm the adult. I am handling this. And then number 3, boundary. Short, clear, no lecture, no threat, no consequences. If you don't do this, you're not going to get your iPad. If you don't do this, you're going to bed early. If you don't do this, you're not seeing your friends. There's no threats. There's no lecture. It's very simple. I won't let you hit. I won't let you throw that. I won't let you hurt me or yourself. We can be mad and we can be safe. So those are 4 lines you can have in your arsenal of when your child is going to become activated, and they will. And eventually the activations will become less, especially if you are pivoting and up-leveling your parenting. They will become less over time. And then if needed, you can physically block and hold the boundary without anger. I'm going to move my body here to keep everyone safe. And then the 4th part, which is so important, and this is really where you come into connection with your child. And that's really what we call temper tantrums or fits, or, society deems, misappropriate behavior. It is simply a child asking for connection. How do I get connection from my caregiver? Well, I'm going to get it this way. And they may be trying to get connection when they're 17, and what are they going to do? They're going to be on, they could really spiral out and be on drugs. When I get attention, when I need attention, and so I'm going to be on drugs. This is all subconscious again. It's just one example, because when I'm on drugs, or when I'm drinking, or when I'm doing quote unquote bad behavior, I will be rescued. I will be seen. Now they see me. Maybe they can see how much I'm hurting. Prevent that, mom and dad. We don't have to watch our kids on drugs and doing harmful behaviors to their body, mind, and spirit, because they simply want connection. The connection starts when they're in the womb and as we are raising them. And this is number 4, repair, regulation, co-regulation with your child, with yourself. It's the secret sauce. Repair teaches safety after rupture. So what you could say is, I was about to get too intense. I apologize. You're not in trouble for having big feelings. We're going to try again. Next time, we can stomp, we can squeeze a pillow, or we can ask for space. And we Apologies for that. It's always interesting when I am doing these podcasts, my voice is always really affected. So I know it's, spirit source who wants this info to get out into the world. And there is this energetic component that really doesn't want the truth to be spoken. So very interesting. So when the child is, acting out, remind yourself that they are simply asking for connection. And then when they have calmed down, when you have also calmed down, you practice whatever happened previously of hey, okay, we're going to leave our grandparents' house. how can we do this that is honoring to you and honoring to me as your parent, as one example. And if the child is of age enough, here are some ideas. I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes, and when the timer is up, we are going to leave. Would you like to walk, or would you like to be carried? And really giving them the autonomy. A lot of children, like they're seeing, they want control. And so even though the parent is in charge, you can give them choices. And that is going to make life easier for so many people, so many parents. Give your child choices, because then they feel in control, and you eliminate the temper tantrum or the fit. And I don't believe in temper tantrums as an adjective. I'm using that for this podcast, as many people are of that misaligned frequency, shall we say. And then you practice whatever the situation that erupted previously. Let's practice this again. How do we want to leave our grandparents when it's time to go? When you don't get something at the store, what do we say? And you practice with them. Practice, practice, practice. Practice becomes healthy. Practice is co-regulating. And when the children co-regulate with you, you're going to notice a happier, calmer, peaceful child, and ultimately adult. So if you want a calm child, you cannot build calm with pain. We are not teaching control. We are not teaching manipulation with our children. We are not teaching fear and violence, which is what spanking does. And if you are still listening with regret for either how you were raised or how you have been raising your children, please hear me. Shame doesn't transform families. Skills do. Support does. Repair does. And if you would like mentorship in your parenting, in your personal evolution, in your personal growth, please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy and delighted to walk alongside of you and transform your life and your family's life. Guaranteed. So start here. Pause, breathe, boundary, repair / co-regulation. That is how you rewire the moment. And the more you do this, the more skilled you are going to become. And you are part of raising a healthy generation. If this episode hit a nerve, please share it with another parent. Share it on social media. Tag me. I'd love to see shares online. Instagram is @HopeRoseSpeaks. Same with Threads. And send it to the parent who's really trying. Not the parent you want to judge, the parent who is committed to raising their kids, their children, in an aligned, healthy way, where the motto is abuse stops with me. Violence stops with me. And if you're a parent who was spanked and you're choosing a different path, I see you, I hear you. This is generational strength in motion. You are doing the incredible work of breaking generational abusive cycles that have been around for quite some time. And I honor you, I see you, and I'm here to support you. Next week, for part 3 of this series, we are going to be even more practical. What to do when kids hit, kick, and scream, and how to hold firm limits without fear. I really thank you for listening to this episode today. It is always an honor to share wisdom and information that you can use right now in the moment. Not 10 years from now, but literally today, tonight, tomorrow morning, whenever you're listening to this, to raise healthy families, raise healthy children. Whether we are raising sons or daughters, we are no longer going to incite violence and abuse and hitting on each other. Line in the sand. It is a firm commitment that we are all going to make together. I will see you next week. Have a beautiful day.